Incense burning, all space is filled with the fragrance. All Buddhas smell it from afar. Auspicious clouds gather everywhere. With utmost sincerity, all Buddhas appear. We pay homage and offer clouds of incense to the Bodhisattvas and the Mahasattvas. We pay homage and offer clouds of incense to the Bodhisattvas and the Mahasattvas. We pay homage, we offer clouds of incense to the Bodhisattvas and the Mahasattvas.
So we're recording this, Santi? Yes. Okay. We're going to continue the work that we started 2 weeks ago with the true stories about a holy monk. And that is where Venerable was talking or discussing the altar and some of the mantras. But we decided that we should start from the beginning. It's a very good place to start. So this book, we've made various attempts to find this book. It is online. It's on Master Zazi's website. Is it on? Can we find it besides that online? Not really.
some of this going on through, the title of it. You can pull up, and then there's several excerpts from various chapters.
Okay.
Not the whole
Not
book,
the
but
whole-
you can get quite a bit.
Okay, thank you. So you can get excerpts by just Googling this. Okay. So we're just going to go ahead and start reading. And Sister, you didn't find your book. Okay. So it's you and me. It's getting to be a theme, Rosita. So we're going to go ahead and start with a preface. And I'll start and we can just switch off and on. So the book, exactly as expected, there exists an eminent master in this world, provided Buddhist circles throughout the whole world with Dharma joy, and that its contents were proper and good. This book had a great influence. However, many followers of exoteric Buddhism did not really understand the deepest principles of the Dharma expounded in that book. They thought that the elder Dharma king is a Dharma king of esoteric Buddhism, also known as the Tantric Buddhism or Vajrayana. It seemed to them that he was never involved with the various teachings of exoteric Buddhism. These people thought that it was not appropriate for them as followers of exoteric Buddhism to read that book. However, what they totally failed to realize is that the elder Dharma king is the supreme master of exoteric Buddhism, a true great abbot monk, as well as the Dharma king of esoteric Buddhism. Although the elder Dharma king is the abbot of the correct Dharma temple in the United States, Bodhi Monastery, located in California, which follows the teachings of exoteric Buddhism, the Pure Land School, and esoteric Buddhism, is also a place where he propagates the Dharma. We have integrated into the contents of this book exactly as expected. There exists an eminent master in this world, a Dharma lecture, which the elder Dharma king gave to us previously. This book has been reprinted under the new name, True Stories About a Holy Monk. Do we need a microphone for you to read? You got it. You want to go ahead and do it?
Why did we change the name to True Stories About a Holy Monk? Because after reading the book exactly as expected, there exists an eminent master in this world. Many people thought that the contents only covered supernormal powers. They thought that it was not a book which Buddhist disciples who have correct understanding and correct view should study. There are those who, upon seeing an eminent monk of great virtue with supernormal powers, put on an air of total seriousness and say, "We who learn the Buddha Dharma do not speak of supernormal powers. We do not seek supernormal powers." One should deeply study the sutras. One should follow the teachings in the sutras in order to reach the goal of realizing true wisdom. Actually, such a viewpoint is extremely erroneous. These people do not understand at all that realization of wisdom and supernormal powers are inseparable. Why did they not think of the many occasions recorded in the sutras when Shakyamuni Buddha used supernormal powers to save living beings? Aren't there many stories of the Buddha's disciples manifesting their supernormal powers? What is recorded in the sutras is correct. Why is it that when supernormal powers are manifested by an eminent monk in modern times, it is considered to be incorrect? If Amitabha Buddha did not have supernormal powers, how could he come to receive us from the Western paradise? If Kuan Yin Bodhisattva did not have supernormal powers, how could she save living beings from suffering, hardship, and difficulties? If a great cultivator, one of great accomplishment who has been practicing according to the Dharma for many lifetimes and eons, does not possess the supernormal powers of a Buddha or Bodhisattva, would this not be contrary to the teachings of the Buddha when he said, "All living beings can become a Buddha. All of them can attain the same state as a Buddha"? Looking back into history, Kasyapa Mantanga and Indu Dharmaranya tested the strength of their supernormal powers against the strength of evil powers. They thereby established a place for Buddhism at the White Horse Temple in Luoyang. If there was not clear manifestation of supernormal powers, it would have been impossible for Buddhism in the Tang dynasty to spread to the central plains of China. Therefore, only those who lack spiritual attainment say that the Buddha Dharma is totally separate from supernormal powers. It is only these people who would have the teachings of the Buddha Dharma be just empty theories. Thus, in order that people of the world can better understand the experiences and deeds of the elder monk, our group traveled throughout Tibet, places occupied by Chinese people, and some other countries in order to carefully collect material about him. During this process of collecting material, we came to understand more and more that the elder monk is a living, eminent monk who has come to this world in response to its needs. During the course of his propagating the Dharma and benefiting people, there appeared true evidence of his state of realization and supernormal powers. Some people say that we are just discussing and writing about supernormal powers. We would like to clearly tell everybody now that we are not just discussing, much less writing about supernormal powers. Rather, we are accurately recording true facts. Since they are facts, we must record them accurately. We have therefore changed the name of this book to True Stories About an Eminent Monk. The Dharma contained in this new book is more complete than that contained in the book Exactly as Expected. There exists an eminent master in this world. In order to propagate the Dharma and benefit living beings, we have obtained the permission of the great monk Dorji Losang to publish this new book and distribute it for free. We entreat all of you good people to remember to respect this book and practice its contents according to the Dharma. In so doing, you will be able to accumulate limitless merit and receive limitless benefits. That preface was written by the Sutra Group of Dorji Changpa in the United States. Shall I continue?
I'll continue. Lecture given by the elder monk at Bodhi Monastery. I've been in this earthly realm for 93 years. What I'm about to say is entirely true and sincere. Only those who are most ignorant will break the precepts by speaking falsely. In so doing, they could be causing the fire of false speech to totally burn up the merit they have accumulated over many lifetimes and eons from having arduously and painstakingly cultivated themselves. I would never be so ignorant as to violate the precepts by speaking falsely and thereby burn up the merit I have accumulated over many years from self-cultivation. Therefore, the words I speak are true and not empty. I would also like to tell everyone that those who believe in my words will receive blessings, and those who do not are to be pitied. I directly manage the correct Dharma temple. Bodhi Monastery is also one of the temples which I directly manage. Do not think it is just a very small place. The Dharma is as big as the universe. The Dharma is as big as the universe. That's pretty big. Although the Grand Canyon is large, it is just a place to cultivate oneself. I do not transmit the Dharma there. From small things, we can see great things and thereby realize the truth. From small things, we can see great things and thereby realize the truth. When the Dharma conditions of those disciples who come here are mature, I will transmit the Dharma to them and will perform initiations for them. Actually, this monastery is already very big. Do you understand the principle? A sacred Buddhist temple could arise from a tiny place. All right, if I speak too deeply, you will not understand. I will now speak about my original subject. Almost all Buddhists come to know during their course of cultivation the following Dharma principle. One must go through countless eons of lifetimes and must constantly cultivate and practice the 6 paramitas. I'm going to read that again. One must go through countless eons of lifetimes and must constantly cultivate and practice the 6 paramitas. And down below, it speaks to the paramitas, which I'm sure most of you know. They're also referred to as the 6 perfections. They are generosity, virtue or moral discipline, patience, energy or exertion, concentration, and wisdom. So when you think about those paramitas, or the perfections, think about them as how you're going to walk the Dharma out. Generosity, where does that show up for you? And not just in giving money, but in what you do with each other, to yourself, with yourself, with people that you meet along the path, people that you meet out as you're doing your daily chores, your neighbors, your extended family, your Sangha. Moral discipline. How does that sit with you? What does that mean to you even? Patience. Patience. That can show up throughout the day. Energy or exertion. Concentration. Wisdom. I'll read this paragraph again. Almost all Buddhists come to know during their course of cultivation the following Dharma principle. One must go through countless eons of lifetimes and must constantly cultivate and practice the 6 paramitas before one is able to perfect the path leading to Buddhahood. Since this is a set Dharma truth which cannot be changed, what Dharma could there be which can lead one to liberation in this lifetime? Of course, there is such a Dharma. This is the supreme, wonderful, and deep Dharma. We do not want to go through countless eons. We want to attain liberation in this lifetime. This is the Dharma which I will speak about today to all of you. Within Buddhist circles today throughout the world, especially in places where Chinese people live, there exists an extremely erroneous prejudice amongst most Buddhist disciples. This prejudice is especially evident in their treatment of various sects within Buddhism. Followers of one sect malign and slander other sects, and even ridicule other sects as being evil or heterodox, which is contrary. There is a particularly great amount of maligning coming from followers of exoteric Buddhism towards those who practice esoteric Buddhism. On the other hand, followers of esoteric Buddhism looking down upon followers of exoteric Buddhism has also become a big problem within Buddhist circles. I want to tell everyone here today that there have been many people who have recently said to me, "Elder monk, I often come to see you. You are always transmitting to people conventional and very common Buddha Dharma, such as reciting Amitabha in order to be reincarnated into the Western paradise, or reciting Kuan Yin Bodhisattva. Such practices belong entirely to the Pure Land School. We have come here to learn esoteric Buddhism. Why do you transmit to us the Dharma of the Pure Land School and not the esoteric Dharma? You are an elder Dharma king who is a leader within esoteric Buddhism. As you are greatly accomplished, you must know much esoteric Dharma. Why do you not transmit to us esoteric Dharma? Why do you transmit to us exoteric Dharma or Pure Land Dharma? Why do you lecture to everyone about the principles of meditation or explain to everyone the doctrine of mind only? We therefore feel that we are missing the true meaning of the esoteric Dharma. Hence, I would like to tell all of you here that the viewpoints of such people are actually extremely erroneous. What is meant by esoteric Buddhism? What is meant by exoteric Buddhism? Our magnificent Dharma King Masters, whether it be A Wang Nu Bu Pamu or Yang Wo Yisin Bu, have the viewpoints of a Buddha. I'm not qualified to be a Buddha, but I handle matters by following the viewpoints of a Buddha. the Pure Land school, exoteric Buddhism, and the Chan or Zen school are all originally the Dharma of the Buddhas. Later generations of teachers separated them into different sects. It is just as I previously said, different sects is a matter of different levels within culture, different thoughts within a culture, and different aspects within a culture. Yet, in the end, these differences all belong to the same culture. It is the same thing with the Buddha Dharma of Buddhism. No matter how you describe it, in the end, it is the Buddha Dharma. It is the Buddha Dharma that is the correct Buddha Dharma. So what he's saying here is that there's no difference. It's all Buddha Dharma. Previously, and also just now, I heard people tell me that as a Dharma king of esoteric Buddhism, I should not speak about the Pure Land school or exoteric Buddhism when teaching esoteric Buddhism. This is the same principle I just spoke of. Those who think in such manner are mistaken. Actually, I've not only learned the esoteric Dharma, part of the Dharma I have learned includes the Pure Land school. The Dharma contained within exoteric Buddhism is also part of the Dharma I have learned. Of course, Chan or Zen meditation is also part of the Dharma I have learned. You do not understand this principle, but you should think for a moment about the following question. To which sect did Shakyamuni Buddha belong? I mean, that's the bottom line. That's the question. There is only one sect. How do I know? Because I've been continuously learning exoteric Buddhism and esoteric Buddhism, esoteric Buddhism and exoteric Buddhism. I never made a distinction between the two, since they both are the Buddha Dharma. The Dharma spoken by Shakyamuni Buddha can be likened to different subjects within a curriculum. These different subjects need to be individually learned. However, the entire complete Dharma system, which we practice and learn, is one body. These individually subjects need to be individually learned. However, the entire complete Dharma system, which we practice and learn, is one body. I can now recollect when I was an abbot a few dozen years ago, people would all say that I was a noble monk of exoteric Buddhism. I have many photographs. They are black and white and are very old. They were taken when I was a monk of exoteric Buddhism. Thinking about it now, I feel quite ashamed. I would not eat after noon. Therefore, my health was quite poor. I would become skinnier and skinnier as each day passed. This is due to not cultivating myself well. Yet when I was learning at that time was the Pure Land school, such as how to recite the name of Amitabha Buddha and learning the doctrines of the sutras relating to the Dharma practice of reciting the name of Amitabha Buddha. I would not put down the Sukhavati-vana Sutra of the Western Paradise, the Aparimitayas Sutra of Unending Life, and various commentaries on those sutras. I would expound those works to others. I myself would practice and study them. The rush cushions on which I sat in the meditation hall became full of holes. Yet I was able to withstand this. We should also learn the Dharma of mind only. Of course, these are things of the past. There are people who say to me, Elder Dharma King, you are now very amazing. You have a dignified appearance. You are only 90 years old. I'm sorry, you are over 90 years old. Yet it seems as if you are glowing with youth even more than when you were young. What, after all, is your secret? What Dharma do you practice to attain this result? I will tell all of you. What Dharma? It is called the correct Dharma of the Tathagata. Some people say it is the Dharma of esoteric Buddhism. This is wrong. Some people say it is the Dharma of exoteric Buddhism. This is wrong. Some people say it is the Dharma of the Pure Land school. This is wrong. It is not any of these.
Now then, what is the Dharma which I practice? You may call it the correct Dharma of the Tathagata. What kind of monk am I? I am a humble monk. Esoteric Buddhism includes exoteric Buddhism, the Pure Land school, and all of the various sects. Therefore, I do not want to hear or read anything other than the correct Buddha Dharma. Hence, what I now want to say is that the Buddha Dharma is the body of liberating principles left behind by the Buddhas. You should not separate this body. The 84,000 Buddhist methods are all part of the Dharma. Whatever is appropriate for one to practice and learn is a good Buddha Dharma. You will surely ask me why I do not practice and study the Pure Land school every day, and why I learn esoteric Buddhism all day long. I'm embarrassed to say it, but I will just tell you. The Pure Land school is truly very good. Amitabha Buddha, the founder of esoteric Buddhism, saw that there were living beings who were suitable to learn the Pure Land and therefore transmitted such Dharma. Amitabha Buddha has great compassion and loves living beings everywhere. How can we not follow in his footsteps? Hence, of course, I want to spread the teachings of the Pure Land school and exoteric Buddhism. However, it is not everyone who can understand the Pure Land school. The Pure Land school is not a matter of just reciting Amitabha Buddha a few times. One cannot understand the Pure Land school by simply reading a few books, such as the Sukhavati Vuha Sutra of the Western Paradise, or the Aparimitaya Sutra of Unending Life. One must truly understand the Pure Land school. One must understand the purpose and the essence of the Pure Land school. Amitabha Buddha said, if one recites his name at least 10 times a day, and if at the moment of one's death, one's entire mind is not confused, then he will lead that person who recited his name to the Western Paradise. Amitabha Buddha never spoke falsely, since he is a Buddha. One who speaks falsely is not a Buddha. There are many people who think, I'll recite the name of this Buddha. It will be so easy. After I recite this name, I will be able to be reborn in the Western Paradise. I will not have to learn any other Dharma. Such a way of thought is truly biased and very erroneous. It is so mistaken. You must understand that reciting the name of this Buddha means recitation during which the entire mind is not confused. Only in this manner will one be able to be reborn in the Western Paradise. What I just said is true, but you here cannot do it. Amitabha Buddha said, with the entire mind not confused. The words with the entire mind not confused sounds quite easy. Can you explain what it means? Do you understand its inner meaning? What is meant by with the entire mind not confused?
Let's stop there for a second. What are your thoughts about that? Recitation during which the entire mind is not confused.
Sukha said, aw shucks.
Can you say a little bit more about aw shucks?
It's not easy at all. It's very, very difficult, and especially at the time of death, when the breathing stops, one feels the fear, great fear of suffocating, and then one's mind is not on Amitabha Buddha.
Yes. And is there any difference in terms of our practices of meditation, where recitation during which the entire mind is not confused surfaces? Is there ever a time? There isn't for me. I have moments where I get clear and I can recite, but it's very challenging to have an ongoing clear mind without thoughts drifting in and out. So I think we really need to look at what he's saying here in terms of this isn't any different. There are different ways, different approaches to step into this. But it's not any different than anything that's out there right now. And it's the true Buddha Dharma from Shakyamuni Buddha. That's the lineage, truly, that we're talking about.
Simply put, it means that when reciting one sentence of homage to Amitabha Buddha, there is the form of one Amitabha Buddha in one's mind. When reciting the second sentence, there is still the form of one Amitabha Buddha in one's mind. When reciting the third sentence, there is still the form of one Amitabha Buddha in one's mind. It does not mean that when one recites one sentence, there is the form of one Amitabha Buddha. When one recites the second sentence, there is the form of a second Amitabha Buddha. And when one recites the third sentence, there is the form of a third Amitabha Buddha. This would be a confused mind. I will put it in simple terms for you. When one recites the name of Amitabha Buddha, the form of Amitabha Buddha in one's mind is set and unmoving. This form is shining in one's mind. When one reaches this level, Amitabha Buddha will lead you into the Western paradise. This is called with the entire mind not confused. It does not mean during the time one recites the sentence one time, a few other thoughts appear in the mind. It is difficult. It is more difficult than flying up to the sky. Many people do not understand this. Moreover, the entire mind must not be confused at the moment of death. Do you understand what the moment of death will be like? At the moment of death, the four great elements which compose the body, earth, water, fire, and wind, break up. The six forms of consciousness disperse. It is a painful and hard to endure. So many people at the moment of death suffer all sorts of pain. They struggle and moan. In coarse worldly terms, this is called grasping for life. Of course, the thoughts of such people will be confused. I have seen many people whose thoughts were confused at the moment of death. Those who were unable to be reborn in the Western paradise were in great pain. They recited the name of Amitabha Buddha their whole life. Yet when they were about to pass away, they would exclaim, "Ah, save me," or they would struggle. People would tell them, "Quickly recite the name of Amitabha Buddha, give rise to correct thoughts." However, one would still hear their sad moaning, sorrowful utterances, and low-spirited voices. Actually, their minds have long since been confused. With such confusion, it is not as if they will be able to enter concentration just because you tell them to give rise to correct thoughts. This requires skill. This requires the constant development of the power of concentration. The power of concentration comes from cultivation and from observing the precepts. If one does not engage in daily cultivation, then it will not be possible to attain the power of concentration. All types of Buddhist disciples listen to what I'm about to say. If it were just a simple matter of reciting Amitabha Buddha with one's entire mind not confused, then the Buddhas would not have taught the 84,000 Dharma methods, and would not have told people to constantly practice the 6 paramitas. The Buddhas would never bring suffering onto others by unjustifiably teaching others that they must constantly practice the 6 paramitas and must cultivate themselves for countless eons before they can attain liberation. In other words, when death arrives, if you do not have certain skills from having cultivated yourself, then you will not be able to enter into concentration. Hence, you will be unable to have your entire mind free from confusion. Since you will be unable to have your entire mind free from confusion, you cannot, after all, blame Amitabha Buddha for not coming to lead you away to the Western paradise. I just want to make a quick comment.
Great.
I just love how he's talking about the value of all sects, all lineages, all teaching, being able to connect with a person and where they are, where their affinity is, where their karma is, where their what connects with them and what allows them to transcend. So they're all equally valuable. And that's why there are so many, because there's so many different types of us and our karmic condition. And it talks about the foundation of just cultivation, which we hammer home all the time, the importance of cultivation and precept observance, and to allow yourself to, through any of these methods, to then reach a level of concentration through those things, that cultivation and diligence, which will allow you to then, achieve accomplishment with Pure Land or any number of other teachings. So I'm just appreciating the value of all exoteric and esoteric, and the many different paths that help us get there. But the foundation being cultivation.
It also speaks to me what Buddha Master has spoken to as well, which is who's your audience? Who's ready to hear what? And I think that the various sects and lineages offer us opportunities to step in and learn depending on where we're at in our growth and where we're at with the Dharma and what we're ready to hear. And, I know for me, 8 years ago, no, longer than that, I did study Zen. And then along the way, some Tibetan and even Hindu practices. And it really allowed me to gather lots of understanding and growth and openness to the opportunity to move into the studies that I'm doing now. So I really appreciate his clarity with this as well. Do you want me to? Does anybody online want to continue? We're at Amitabha Buddha said at the top there. Okay.
I can read.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Amitabha Buddha said that if your entire mind is not confused at the moment of death, and you recite his name only 10 times, then he will come to lead you away to the Western paradise. If you recite his name 9 times without a confused mind, but your mind is confused during the 10th recitation, then Amitabha Buddha would not be able to lead you away. It is not that he does not have responsibility to lead you away, it's that under such circumstances, he cannot lead you away. You will not be able to sit upon the lotus blossom, which will lead you away. It's like an electric wire. If any part of it's defective, then electricity will not flow all the way through. Therefore, you do not understand what type of pain one experiences at the moment of death. However, you can do a test on yourselves immediately. While I'm speaking to you now, you can get an understanding of this pain. How can you get such an understanding? For example, you can immediately conduct a demonstration of what it's like when a great element of wind leaves your body or stops functioning within your body. Use your hands to cover your entire mouth and nose. Try this for no more than 2 minutes. While struggling, can you maintain a mind which is entirely free from confusion? I will tell you what it would be like. Even if you only experience 30 to 40% of the pain involved in not breathing, even if you did not experience 60 to 70% of such pain, need more, please. Thank you. During those 2 minutes, I'm afraid you would still not be able to maintain your entire mind free from confusion. Your mind would be hysterical and confused. Therefore, cultivation is totally a matter of daily practice. One must engage in cultivation and practice concentration as much as possible on a daily basis. Only then can one be reborn in the Western paradise. I'm not saying this to scare you all. I'm telling you the truth. I'm speaking the truth. You would be able to immediately tell if I spoke falsely. If what I'm saying is not true, if one who simply recites the name of Amitabha Buddha can 100% rest assured that he will be reborn in the Western paradise, the Buddhas would not have taught that one must constantly practice the 6 paramitas and would not have established so many precepts and rules of disciple to restrain everybody. It would be so easy. One would just recite the name of Amitabha Buddha 10 times and one would be reborn in the Western paradise. There would be no need for the sutras. The Tripitaka could be burned up. We would only need to keep the Aparamitaya Sutra of Unending Life, and that would be enough. We would not need the Sukativoya Sutra of the Western Paradise. Think carefully about what I'm saying. I'm telling you that its import is deep. Carefully ponder it over.
So let's stop here for a second and just talk about how you cultivate. How do you cultivate? Not how Soma cultivates or Sukha cultivates, but how do you do that? how do you keep yourself aware throughout the day? Because we talk about it all the time, but what? What does it look like? How do you do that? How do you keep yourself in tune with your cultivation? Where does it start? And how do you do this? That's a question I'm putting out for anybody that's interested in responding.
Try to just be aware of sensations. I can understand when I'm strained, for lack of a better word, if the feeling comes. And so it's being aware of sensations, then I know when I'm not, following correct, I guess the term would be correct cultivation. So it's really just being aware of my body and the sensations in my body.
Thanks.
I think we have to pay attention moment to moment to how we act across the three kayas, with our mind, our speech, our body. But I think more importantly, not more importantly, but more what feels more pertinent for me where I'm at in my journey now is as we begin to wade deeper into the waters of the Dharma. I love what he said about the liberating principles, Buddha Dharma being the liberating principles. And I think it's really seeding our day and our life and our consciousness and our very being moment to moment with an intention to really hold that cultivation, right? To walk in a pure way, to try to uphold the precepts, to in a very grounded and pragmatic way, really walk out generosity, walk out internal restraint. And sometimes that happens where you just, like there's a person and you can I'm married and you can sometimes just have conflicts. And so the internal restraint is knowing that if I allow my mind and my speech to open this pathway, we're already walking down there. So I think cultivation is coming back to do I really want to stay liberated? Do I want to see myself as a solid thing that needs to protect, validate, insulate? Or do I call upon help that which is higher to allow me to penetrate that? And, I was telling Busita, I've been thinking a lot about karma, Venerable always tells us it's just action, it's action and the seeds of the action that are arising as we do it. And I think that's all true, but I think karma also has an energetic imprint. And I think that energetic imprint of how things go out really comes down to our intention and how powerful it is to actually hold that. So when he was talking about chanting the name of Amitabha Buddha without a confused mind, to me, that says a being that has cultivated themselves so deeply that their concentration is so perfected, not just when they talk about it to their friends, but when they really need it, when the elemental forms are coming apart. And in order to do that, one has to really perfect generosity. One has to perfect virtue. One has to perfect patience. One has to perfect how they use their energy. It's such a simple thing, but to really develop a mind and a spirit that can do that is, I think it's really precious. And I think at the forefront of that is how deep we interact and honor the principles of liberation by walking them out, chewing on them, digesting them, being them.
So how do you, that's the question, and you were getting to that, is how do you really, it's all one thing, we can all say what we need to do, what our intention is, but how do we draw that intention out? I agree with you, Brian. For me, it's really paying attention to the sense gates. because they're going to tell me when I'm starting to engage with somebody. I feel it. I know I've shared this before, but it starts in my gut. And if I don't pay attention, then it moves up to my breathing. And if I don't pay attention, then I can feel the warmth coming up. And now those are 3 times that I had an opportunity to try something different. I could step into the paramitas because I wasn't, or I was in some way that wasn't working. But how do we know? How do we sit here and read this and then walk out this door and really practice it and know when we're in the thick of it and when we stop it, and not just have it be words, but true practice? Because that's what's going to get us. You're right. The depth of saying Amitabha, it's not just the words. That's not going to get you when we spent 30 days and a big piece of that in studying the imparting the Heart Sutra was really kind of taking apart what happens with the sense gates as we start transcending out of our body. And it's like, wow, that's amazing. That's big. What stops, and then what next stops, and then what next stops? And if we don't have that deep practice that you're talking about, if we haven't cultivated it, that's going to go out the window. Yeah. So really the question is, what do you do? How do you know? And how do you bring yourself back?
Well, I liked your words of the solid body, because I think when I find I'm practicing well, it's when I kind of, whatever stimulus I get that makes my senses aware. I can think of a week ago, we were having a light finally installed in the house that we've been waiting for probably 10 months. Multiple visits that went wrong. And I was listening in the same room to the electricians and going on, and they were the one that came from Atlanta to rewire, saying, well, I've done my part and it's not up to me to make sure it can be hung. And, and I'm listening, and the other two that were supposed to hang it started getting like, well, there are no parts here. We're missing some of the parts to hang it. And there was this, and I'm the house owner to do it. And I could just feel something. And it was kind of like, I just was able, probably because I wasn't having the conversation at that point, I felt very removed, and I watched what I was feeling with hearing the tension and stuff. And I just exhaled and I said, now's the time to be nice. And I walked up and I went, I really hear you and I appreciate you coming to do all this rewiring. And that's really important. And I brought a pad and a paper and I said, why don't we make a list of what is missing to get this done, instead of thinking back over, we've already been through 5 times of you all being here and it's still not working. And, I could have gone down that kind of path, but I thought it's just what it is, and I didn't get all upset. And, they all took a different path and they counted up what they needed. And the guy who was about to leave and drive by to Atlanta said, well, I'll go to the store and get those things. And he stayed until it was completely up and whatever. But I think, I offered a container of gratitude for whatever they were doing and not blaming anyone because of this practice, And so I always try and start with gratitude, regardless of whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. And it does take a lot of practice, particularly when my mama bear is there. And that's my big weak link in the practice. But that exhale and trying to see myself outside my body of how do I want to
I also heard generosity in that story. The generosity to be able to step into something and honor them. I also heard patience and energy and wisdom. I mean, you pulled just about all of those paramitas into practice. And that's really, and it's cueing in that that's what I'm doing. It's cueing in that something's up and that what, the wisdom to know, am I the right person? Is this going to be helpful or hurtful to the situation? And taking the time to do that as opposed to bringing the shoulders up, leaning forward and powering in and having your own issues around how many times. And that's the practice. That is the practice. And it's not generally just one of those paramitas. You are dancing into many of them. And the more aware we are about that, the more we're able to do it. And to be able to say, wow, didn't that change? And even then to reflect on that at that moment. What made the difference? I waited. I assessed the situation. I grabbed a pad of paper. I maybe thought through, how do I want to do this? And look at how much time it's taking to get to that place. And maybe if your shoulders were up, maybe they start coming down. And maybe instead of leaning in, you kind of took the breath and then stepped in. It didn't really take that long, but really it took a little more time than if you had just gone in like the mama bear or the bull. Right? Any other thoughts?
I usually catch myself after I've done something. I love what all of you said. For me, it's two things: lack of concentration. Oh, there I am. Get back to the point. Oh, there I am. Pull myself back, and then being frustrated with myself, and then being angry. So the thoughts take me further and further away, just because I realized that I wasn't concentrating. Or patience. I catch myself after I've done the impatient thing. The goal is to stop all this ahead of time, but I haven't got there yet. Those are two hindrances that I have, is patience and lack of concentration. So I'm aware of them. And when I go into a situation where I think I might become impatient, I tell myself ahead of time, be patient, and I do better. But I'm behind the eight ball. The main thing is that I catch myself,
right,
and I determine that, oh, I've got to work harder on it.
Or work differently on it. I think learned that years ago when I was in the schools, and we were working with kids who had some real gaps. And we were pushing and pushing and pushing to get that child to learn something. And really, what I learned through a workshop was, instead of trying harder, just try differently. Try differently. It allows you to see it from a different angle. Let's try it differently. That's what you did, Nancy. Instead of what you may have done in the past, you tried differently. Anyone else? Anyone online have something to share?
So for me, when I was younger, I went to a Pure Land tradition, and I really, really enjoyed this book. And so every morning here, I wake up and I recite Amitabha Buddha's name at least for 30 minutes, depending on how much time I have in the morning. And to kind of build the, remembrance so at any moment, because we don't know when we'll pass, it kind of reminds me of, okay, to collect myself and to create the space where I'm able to continue to practice that. And I remember actually when I was in high school and there was a really, really bad storm. And I was in a room filled with computers, and that was the worst place to be in a rainstorm. And the water was going through the door, and I called my dad, and I was like, "Dad, I'm in a bad situation right now. I am in a room with electronics, and there's so much water everywhere." And I just remember when I was talking to Dad, I said, "Dad, I think I need to I think I need to recite Amitabha Buddha's name right now. Can you also do that?" So I was asking for his support in that. And so like we're all in our teenage years, and so we're all on the desk, sitting on our desk, and kind of not trying to be in the water. And it's just like just brought me back to that moment. And so yeah, just trying to have that moment where I have this concentration within me, and as my practice becomes stronger, it's just an automatic response, and not have to think, oh, I have to do this. It just comes automatically.
It's just like going to the gym or working out. It builds muscle. Doesn't take much to lose a muscle when you stop. Takes a lot more to build it, but you get stronger and stronger with that. So I really, I'm aware of the time already. I just want to reiterate the 6 perfections and how they surround us and how we can easily step in to practicing those paramitas if we're aware of them. I used to carry a little index card with them and the precepts so that I could be reminded and practice that. The other thing I want to, we talked about, when Joe was reading, talked about the Tripitaka, and I want to read what they've written about what the Tripitaka, some of you may not know what that is. It means the 3 baskets. The first basket, the Vinaya Pitaka, contains accounts of the origins of the Buddhist order of monks and nuns, as well as the rules of discipline regulating the lives of monks and nuns. The second, the Sutra Pitaka, is composed of the discourses of Shakyamuni Buddha and his eminent disciples. The third is the Abhidharma Pitaka, and that is a compendium of Buddhist psychology and philosophy. So you may hear the Tripitaka along the way, and that's the meaning of that. Does anybody have anything else to share before we take a few minutes to just settle and then end for today?
Could you share the screen that you're showing here? Is there a link you can put on somewhere where we can pull that up ourselves?
Yeah, it's on Master website. Yes.
So if,
Master Zizi has on her website, even if you just Google true stories about a holy monk, I think the first link takes you to Master Zazi's website. We could also send it out, but she has links to pretty much the entire book. There are just a couple parts that were absent, in particular, some of the mantras that we had talked about before. And we're looking for additional hard copies.
Okay, so the entire content so far has been on that. Okay. Anyone else?
The only thing I wanted to say is I'm really enjoying the course of studies that we're undertaking now, because it feels like the Dharma that they're expounding is really resonating with deep truth. And I'm also understanding, like when he was talking today about the different sects and different viewpoints and ways to enter. Like, I think sometimes it takes a really long time, or can take a really long time, just to penetrate one principle really deeply. Like this principle of no self, anatta. Like, if every moment we held that, or I held that, I wouldn't have anything to defend or insulate or secure. And I feel like to even come to the place where one wants to really hold that at the forefront of who they are in order to be of service, it's something that's really special. And like lately, I've kind of realized that a lot of the suffering in my life was self-perpetuated by like really sort of living in two directions at once. And like the first direction being like somebody who wants to accomplish, driven, wants to do all that. When I really trace it down, I can see it was ignorance, or the seeds of ignorance of really clinging to an insufficient self that feels like it needs to build itself in validation to something else. And I've through the course of these years of studying with Venerable, I've been kind of tracing down and dealing with levels of that, with the anger, with the impatience, with the letting go of the feeling done wrongs, all the causes and conditions that gave rise to that, And I feel like I'm standing on a precipice now where I have to really begin to take this notion of not holding the self so solid at the forefront, and not as something we have to do, but as like a really liberating power that we can deepen into. And I think to even see that, and to even know that that is like fuel that leads one on the path out of samsara, or like helps liberate one from the cycle. I think to really hold the intention of that energetically and begin to purify ourselves in relation to that, it seems like really high Dharma. I don't mean like high fluting, I just mean like a really powerful way to live, and like the profundity of living that way, and also the responsibility that it entails too, have been really rising up for me. Because I'm like, I don't want my son to see me like rushing forward so much to try to be something that I'm not even going to be anyways. You know what I mean? Like, and all the anxiety and the angst and the, just like the mouse trapping that goes along with that. It's like when you were talking before about like, how do we see that? Sometimes I gotta just slow down enough to be like, oof, the mouse I'm mouse trapping. And like the last couple months for me have been really busy. And now I'm just realizing, like, as the fall is coming and we feel the crisp air coming in, like there's times where we just have to allow ourselves to fold inwards and to honor and root down into new awarenesses and new ways of being. And we have to be really clear about what they are. And as Deepa always used to tell me, like, one thing at a time, Rob. Just one thing at a time. So, yeah, I appreciated that.
Okay. Let's just take a minute to let the Dharma settle in for the day. By the power of this compassionate practice, may suffering be transformed into peace. May the hearts of all beings be open and their wisdom radiate from within. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Soma.
Thank you, Joe.